Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1707. The topic is Q&A, and the title is How to Achieve Your Fitness Goals on a Budget. Ooh, wouldn't we all like that? This question, kind of topic came in from a listener. They're a college student. They have some money, but not a lot of money, and they just want to make sure they're spending it wisely. Part of their questions came down to a lot of nutrition, and they were asking if certain foods were necessary, even though certain foods are expensive and they go bad quickly. And it was just, they're struggling a lot with the nutritional aspect. And then the training component, they've been following free things online, but they're very unsure if what they're doing is actually working. They feel like they're just hitting plateaus and frustrated with everything. So they're just overwhelmed a little bit with what to do. And when they think about what to do, they're trying to figure out, how do I do it cheaply? So I wanted to talk about that today in today's podcast. And what I want to point out is a couple resources we have through our website. On our website, you can go to Free Nutrition Education. That's one of the pages on the website. And the first link there is a Create Your Own Nutrition Program document. You can view the document. You can print the document. It has you listen to podcast 1232. There's a link right in the document. But that's a podcast titled Start Here. And what that podcast does is it tells you what are the most important components when you're trying to eat for a goal, whether it's fat loss, muscle building, strength, sport performance, anything, whatever your goal might be, how you will eat, what's the order of importance, what matters most. When we think about what matters most, it's calories. Then protein content, making sure you have enough protein within those calories. Then it would be meal timing, making sure you're eating more when you move more, eat less when you move less. That's helpful, not necessarily for like weight management, but it's helpful to maximize body composition, to maximize performance in the workouts, to maximize recovery from the workouts, to maximize and kind of make the best of your mental, emotional responses to food. So meal timing doesn't necessarily relate to weight control or weight management as much as it relates to every other aspect, which then impacts whether you're consistent or adherent to your diet. So it's very impactful. And then the fourth thing would be macronutrient quality, which is kind of like what you eat. Do I eat Oreos or do I eat, sweet potatoes? So the reason why it's beneficial for us to know that stuff is, number one, it allows you to be totally okay with buying cheap foods. Because if all I have to do really is hit my calories, my protein, and I'm making sure I have my meal timing right, and then my net macronutrients, I just want to make sure I have carbs when I'm supposed to have carbs, fats when I'm supposed to have fats, and proteins when I'm supposed to have my proteins. Like, cheap foods will fulfill all of that. And you want to buy foods that you actually like. That's a huge component as well, because there's less food waste. You're not going to buy something, not eat it, and end up throwing it away. It decreases spontaneous spending in the sense that, okay, I know I'm supposed to eat XYZ for dinner, but I've eaten that every single night. I don't really like that food. I'm just going to swing by, the fast food place and get a chicken sandwich. So it'll reduce spending in that way. And it helps in the sense that if you buy what you like, you probably like it because you digest it well. That's not something we commonly think of, but you like it because you get good energy from it. You feel good after you eat it. You're not, go to the bathroom 1,000 times. You don't have upset stomach. When we talked about actually in podcast 1700 was a nutrition podcast titled The Importance of Digestibility in Food Selection. That was impactful in the sense that if I know I will like my foods, then I know I'm going to be more consistent with my foods and be more adherent to my diet. So that's going to be the basis of what we need to know and get the right mindset for nutrition. Once I understand, okay, if I buy foods that are cheap and I buy foods that I like, and that's okay. That's an okay thing, that's a good thing. I then can realize, well, I don't need to buy the more expensive foods. I don't need to buy quinoa. I can just buy white rice. I don't need to buy sweet potatoes. If I don't like them and they're more expensive, I can just buy white potatoes. So if we think about what we would need in our foods, is we need protein and we need energy. And the energy nutrients are carbs and fats. Carbs are pretty easy. I mean, rice, potatoes, bananas. Those are kind of the cheapest things. And they're, readily available, always there, relatively cheap, really good kind of nutrient density. It's going to give you everything you need. Now, there's a million other ones, but And this example where like white rice, you can buy white rice. You don't have to have brown rice or quinoa. Potatoes, you can buy white potatoes. You don't need to have sweet potatoes. And bananas are freaking cheap, so they're great as well. Think about like fats. If I think about here's one of the carb sources. I buy Gatorade powder, which you can just get in big freaking containers. How big is this container? It is a 3-pound, 3-ounce container, so 1.4-ish kilogram container of just Gatorade powder. So rather than buying Gatorade bottles, I buy the powder, just mix it up in a water bottle myself, and good to go. So that's a cheap way to get some good sugars right before a workout, if that's when you want them. And then fats, really cheap, is oils. It's not cheap when you buy the bottle, typically. The bottle is going to feel like it's expensive, but there's an enormous amount of servings in there, so that's really cheap. If you think about other sources of fats, like sometimes people think they have to buy, almonds or cashews, and those can be very expensive, so you can just get peanut butter. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You just want to make sure you control it and make sure you measure it correctly. But you can get carbs and fats that are things you like and that are cheap. For proteins, it's a little bit harder. Protein is the more expensive of the nutrients because it has a shorter shelf life, and usually there's more that has to go into trying to get the protein to you from its original source. So you're going to look for proteins that are on sales. Like my wife and I, sometimes we go to Target, and every now and then Target will have sirloin steak on sale. If people didn't buy it in time, and it's about to go bad the next day, they put it at like half price or something. So I just snatch all those up. So that works well. And also, like ground beef, like fattier meats tend to be cheaper. If you don't want all the fat, you can drain the fat and then pat the meat dry. That actually does reduce the fat content of the beef, but you can still buy the cheaper, like 80-20 rather than like 96-4. And that's a good way to just get more meat for your dollar. You can look for just different sales. Sometimes chicken breasts will be on sale versus chicken thighs. So having a little bit of flexibility, knowing that, okay, it doesn't matter so much exactly what I eat, as long as I hit my calories, as long as I get my protein, I'll just use whatever's on sale. I'll use whatever's cheap. So understanding that you're not burdened by these quote unquote only healthy foods or organic foods, you can get that done a lot cheaper. When we think about supplements, some cheap supplements that are really effective. Number one is a multivitamin. I know that's not like a super sexy one. You're not gonna feel like you're gonna lose 100 pounds of fat by taking a multivitamin or gain 100 pounds of strength. But multivitamins are great to just kind of cover the basis of your vitamin and mineral needs. Which, if you don't have a really high variety of diet, it can make sure that you at least cover the basis of that. And that's good for all processes. Like fat loss isn't going to happen at its best. Muscle building isn't going to happen at its best if the body doesn't have all the proper components that add together for the proper hormones and proper responses that we need. So multivitamin is super cheap. You can get, like Nature's Made, I believe, is a super cheap kind. You can get Equate from Walmart. Whatever you have available to you. If it's like a nationally known brand, you can get that, and it's probably going to be pretty effective. Caffeine pills are super cheap, much cheaper than energy drinks. So you can get caffeine pills. I actually do that. Sugar-free energy drinks tend to upset my stomach, so I do caffeine pills a lot. Super cheap. One pill is like a cup of coffee. I can take that right before a workout. Great energy, and super, super, super cheap. Like I'm talking like 5 cents versus a $3 energy drink. Creatine is a really good, also you can use caffeine, by the way, for fat loss. If you use caffeine in the morning, then caffeine kind of midday, you want to take it more than 6 hours away from when you want to go to bed. Probably more like 8 to 10 hours away from when you want to go to bed. But caffeine is really good for giving you energy. It makes you a little more fidgety. You move around a little bit more. You're going to be up and active, more talking. You're going to be more willing to walk over to the water fountain to get some water, like walk out to so-and-so and do something, whatever. You're just going to be more willing to move if you feel like you have energy. So caffeine pills are really good for even fat loss. If you're looking for a strength and muscle building, creatine is super cheap. Creatine monohydrate is the cheapest version. It's actually the most effective version, the most well-researched version. So you can just get basic creatine monohydrate, super, super cheap. So you can try that, see how you respond to it, see how you feel with it. But those are 3 very cheap and very good supplements: multivitamin, caffeine pill, and creatine. So that's nutrition. The biggest thing with nutrition is just understanding, as long as I have my calories, my protein content, and I'm eating when I should, Yeah, I don't want to necessarily choose like Oreos over potatoes, but I can have white potatoes instead of sweet potatoes. So you want to eat healthier, quote unquote, foods, but you don't have to have the $1,000,000 version of that food. So that's very helpful. Now, when it comes to training, what I believe would be very effective and also cheap is going to be from us. And I know that I'm about to tell you my own service, but if I didn't believe in doing it, if I didn't believe in the value of it, I shouldn't be doing it, right? So the reason why I mentioned it is we have live monthly programming, which is a service that we offer on our website. It's $50 a month, 50. So combined with, a typical gym membership, you're going to be under $150 a month, maybe even under $100 a month, and you're going to have a gym membership plus training programming. The live monthly programming, you get brand new programs every 4 weeks. The programs are absolutely complete. Every exercise has video links so you can see the tutorials of them. And then with that includes education. You can ask absolutely any question and you will get an answer. So you get great programming that you can also ask on how to kind of fine tune and personalize even more. So I had somebody recently, we had one of our programs, our functional athleticism program. One of the exercises was a dumbbell row on a 45-degree hyperextension. It's a great functional exercise because you have to fire off the entire posterior chain backside of your body to hold and brace you, including your obliques and abdominal wall. So you get tons of core bracing stability, tons of backside of the body activation, and then doing dumbbell rows like that, you get good grip work as well. So really, really great for somebody who's wanting to be like functional athlete type, and that's like first responders, military, tactical games athletes, stuff like that. This client participate in the service. They're 6'4", and at a gym they go to, the 45-degree hyperextension didn't go up to their height. So they said, hey, I gave that exercise a try, but it hurt my knee. What can I do? And I said, hey, bummer, try this instead. So they were able to ask me a direct question. I was able to give them a direct answer. Somebody else was running on a treadmill one day and strained their groin. So they said, hey, what do I do with that? And I gave them tips on how to manage that. People ask about schedule. They ask about motivation. They can ask about nutrition. You can ask anything you want, and I go in there and actually answer it every single week. So it's a lot of time, and I enjoy doing it. Like anybody ask anything, I'll answer it. But it's rare to get good programming that also has personalized education and have it be relatively cheap. You can find more programs online for free than you will ever even be able to do. But the problem is they're worth every penny. Usually free programs are trash. And why that bothers me, like it gets me a little frustrated, is the programming is garbage. Therefore, the person who follows it, they're a little frustrated for it. It doesn't quite work. They have to make some small modifications. It doesn't go the way they want. Then that person thinks they're a failure. So they start blaming themselves. Oh, I guess I'm never meant to be in shape, or I'm always supposed to be fat. Things just don't work for me, blah, 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 blah. And they tend to beat themselves up whenever really the program was just absolute trash. So low quality programs tend to make the person feel low, and that bothers me. So I'd rather you get really good programming. And for $50 a month, I have lived on a ridiculous budget before. I have lived where, I remember I've telling a story in several podcasts, when I opened the gym, there were days I would wake up and I would have minus money in my bank account. I would wake up to an alert from my bank that says your account is overdrawn. And I'm like, oh, crap. By 4 o'clock today, I have to find money and put it into my account and get above zero. And literally, thank God, because every time that happened, somehow I was able to make it work with his thanks, like with his, blessing and help, and then my work ethic and trying to get it done. So God helps those who help themselves. But I was able to make those things work. But the reason why I point that out is I understand that $50 a month can be difficult. But if you watch your spending in other ways, try not to drink so much beer if you're in college. Try not to go out to eat as much. See what you can do to reduce some costs. And if you can get to $50 a month, you can get really good programming and have all the education you would want. It's an incredible, incredible service. This is the cheapest but yet the highest quality combination that you're going to probably find. So I really do believe in it. I think it's extremely helpful. The people who have been following it and doing it seem to all be very helpful, really happy. I mean, so everybody's only ever said good things, and everybody stayed with it so far, which is pretty awesome. Really loving that. So that community is growing, and people are really enjoying that. So that's one option you can do for, like, if you're on a budget, how do you get really good training, is the live monthly programming service. You can learn more about it on our website. But again, it's $50 a month. You get brand new programs every 4 weeks. Every exercise is a video tutorial, and you get to ask any question you want at any time and get an answer. So really, really, really awesome service. Then when it comes to education, that was another thing that the listener wanted to know, is how do I get education cheaply? You're doing it. Podcasts. Podcasts are incredibly cheap. Most of them are free. So we have ours, which is a really good kind of touch a little bit on everything. If you want to go deeper into the weeds of other aspects of certain aspects, Squat University is a good podcast I'll listen to at times, and Muscle Intelligence podcast is a good podcast I'll listen to at times. And I like this. Squat University has a lot of training components. Muscle Intelligence talks about more so supplements, mindset, and alternative methods of different fitness things. So it's really kind of neat. YouTube, super cheap. Pretty much free. Layne Norton, I'll watch his stuff every now and then for good nutrition education. Josh Bryant, which is on Jailhouse Strong, awesome training content. Anything he shows is good. Mark Bell on Slingshot 06 has really good content. He often has people come in, they teach things and make really good videos. So there's a lot of great stuff on YouTube and podcasts that are free, and you're going to be able to get great education. So what I typically do is, when I find a source that I believe is good, anytime they mention someone's name, I go check out that person. So start with this podcast, Squat University Muscle Intelligence Podcast, and then for YouTube, Layne Norton, Josh Bryant, and Mark Bells, and it'll dovetail off into a million other things. I guarantee I'm not naming all of them, but those are some good places to start. So when we look at how to be healthy, like how to achieve your fitness goals, how to be effective in your efforts on a budget, we have that free document on our website, Create Your Own Nutrition Program. Listen to that podcast, understand what's important, buy what's cheap, buy what you like, but make sure you hit your calories, your protein, your meal timing, and your macronutrient distribution, like proper macronutrient timing, right? Supplements, we said multivitamin, caffeine pills, and creatine. Super cheap, super effective. Training, the live monthly training program, monthly programming service, you can learn about on our website. Again, $50 a month. It includes unlimited education. Ask anything you want, get answers personal to you. And then education, podcast, and YouTube. There you go. So, maybe not, I don't know if that was helpful at all, but I hope this was helpful, and it gave you some good ideas, gave you some good places to start. I do understand the challenge of trying to live your best life on a budget. So if you have any follow-up questions, if you need to know anything else, just email me. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. So if you like our podcast, please share it. If you like the podcast, please consider supporting it. You can donate to help cover some of the crazy costs on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. And then, if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us, and please follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.